Imagine waking up at exactly 2 a.m. to a sudden, choking wave of panic. Your heart is racing. Your eyes scan the shadows of your own bedroom, a room you've slept in 100 times, and yet for one terrifying second, it feels wrong. Unfamiliar. Dangerous. In today's world, we call this insomnia. Anxiety. A glitch in the sleep cycle. Something to Google at 6 a.m. with shaking hands. But your brain is not malfunctioning. That midnight panic is a 300,000-year-old survival mechanism, jolting your body awake exactly the way it was designed to. For 99% of human history, a sunset wasn't a beautiful view. It was a death sentence. To your ancestors, the night wasn't something you controlled with a button on a wall. It was a terrifying wall of blackness that could swallow you alive without warning, without sound, without mercy. And that 2 a.m. dread you feel tonight? That isn't your mind failing you. That is living proof that your modern body is still, on some primal level, terrified of what is waiting in the dark. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, and you'll never look at your own 2 a.m. wake-ups the same way again. Our terror of the dark isn't psychological, it's biological, and it's ancient. Compared to the apex predators of the wilderness, human beings are functionally blind at night. A mountain lion possesses a specialized reflective layer behind its retina called the tapetum lucidum, the same structure that makes a cat's eyes glow in your headlights, giving it night vision so powerful it can spot a moving target in conditions that look like pitch blackness to us. Humans have none of that hardware. When the sun dips below the horizon, we don't just lose a little visibility. We lose our single greatest sensory advantage on the entire planet. So evolution gave us something else instead: hypervigilance, a nervous system engineered to treat every snapped twig, every rustle of grass, every unexplained silence as a potential threat. Paranoia, for early humans, wasn't a flaw. It was insurance. The individuals who felt nothing at night, who slept soundly through every warning sign, simply didn't live long enough to pass on that trait. That phantom anxiety you feel at 2 a.m., staring at your ceiling for no reason you can name, is not a malfunction. It's an inheritance. A biological alarm system, still fully operational, still doing exactly the job it evolved to do, waking you up at the exact hour when your ancestors were most likely to die. So how did a slow, clawless, night-blind ape survive long enough to become the dominant species on Earth? The answer is fire, and it's older than most people realize. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found burned bone and ash dated to roughly 1 million years ago, some of the earliest evidence that an ancestor of modern humans was already using fire. But the more remarkable discovery came from Kasem Cave in Israel, where researchers found evidence of repeated, controlled, everyday use of fire dating back roughly 300,000 years. The exact moment in our evolutionary timeline when hypervigilance at night would have started facing its first real competition. For the first time in the history of our species, darkness had a boundary. A campfire created what researchers sometimes call a dome of safety, a rough 30-foot radius of light where predators hesitated to enter and humans could finally, briefly, exhale. It didn't erase the fear. Beyond the firelight, the void was exactly as dangerous as it had always been. But inside that circle, for the first time, our ancestors had a place to simply be, together, visible, and momentarily safe. That changed everything about what happened after dark. Here's where the science gets genuinely strange. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Ju-Hontsi hunter-gatherers of southern Africa, one of the last populations on Earth still living close to how humans lived for most of our history. She recorded and analyzed their conversations and found something remarkable: a stark divide in what humans talk about depending on whether the sun is up. During daylight hours, over 80% of Ju-Hontsi conversation was practical: economics, complaints, coordinating work, negotiating disputes, logistics. But the moment the sun went down and the fire was lit, that ratio flipped entirely. More than 80% of nighttime conversation became storytelling: myths, ancestral history, tales of distant relatives, and legendary hunts. Why would an exhausted, food-focused species spend its precious firelight hours telling stories instead of resting? Because the fear never actually left. It just moved. Beyond the edge of the firelight sat an ocean of darkness the human mind could not stop imagining things into. And so, instead of sitting in silence with that fear, we did something remarkable. We filled the void with narrative. We built monsters out of imagination so we could name what we couldn't see. Nearly every culture on Earth, entirely independently, developed some version of a creature that comes for you in the dark. The fear of the void didn't just survive the invention of fire. It became the raw material for the very first stories, the first myths, the first gods. The dark didn't just threaten our bodies, it built our imaginations. But fire didn't just change how we survived the night. It unlocked something even stranger, a completely different way of sleeping that modern society has almost entirely erased from memory. You were never actually designed to sleep in one uninterrupted 8-hour block. Historian A. Roger E. Kirch spent over a decade combing through medieval diaries, court depositions, medical texts, and literature, thousands of documents, and kept finding the same two phrases over and over: first sleep and second sleep. Before the industrial age, a typical human night didn't look anything like yours. People went to bed shortly after dusk, slept for roughly 4 hours, and then, almost precisely around midnight, simply woke up. For an hour or two, in the dead of night, the entire pre-industrial world was quietly awake. They didn't panic. They didn't reach for a phone that didn't exist. They prayed. They talked quietly with a spouse. They reflected. Some even visited neighbors. Then, when it felt right, they drifted into a second sleep until dawn. This wasn't a disorder. It was the default setting of the human body. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran an experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health that proved it. He placed a group of volunteers in an environment with 14 hours of darkness every night for a month, no artificial light extending their evenings, nothing to distract them. Within weeks, without being told to, their bodies naturally split into exactly this same two-phase pattern. And during that midnight waking window, Ware's team measured something remarkable: a surge of prolactin, a hormone associated with a deep, tranquil sense of calm, a biochemical state of peace that almost no one in the modern world has ever consciously experienced. An entire ancient rhythm of rest and a strange nightly window of natural calm, simply gone from human experience. Erased in a single generation. So what erased it? In 1879, Thomas Edison publicly demonstrated a practical, long-lasting incandescent light bulb. It wasn't an instant transformation. Commercialization of electric grids rolled out gradually over the following decades. But the direction of history had permanently changed. For the first time since our ancestors huddled around that first fire in Chasm Cave, humans had a way to hold back the night indefinitely, cheaply, and everywhere. Night, as a biological experience, was effectively erased. The two-phase sleep our bodies had followed for hundreds of thousands of years got compressed forcibly into a single continuous 8-hour block, because a factory shift, a workday, and a school bell don't care what your prolactin levels are doing at midnight. We didn't adapt our biology to fit the light bulb. We just overrode it. And today, the data shows the cost. According to the CDC, roughly 1 in 3 American adults regularly fails to get the sleep their body actually needs. Tens of millions report difficulty falling or staying asleep on a near-nightly basis. We didn't solve our ancient fear of the dark. We just bulldozed straight through the one natural biological accommodation our bodies had built for it. We traded a strange, sacred hour of midnight calm for permanent exhaustion, and most of us don't even know what we lost. This is why, 300,000 years after our ancestors first huddled inside a dome of firelight, your body still does the exact same thing tonight. When you jolt awake at 2 a.m. with your heart pounding for no identifiable reason, you are not broken. Your ancient alarm system, the one that kept hyper-vigilant humans alive long enough to become your ancestors, is still fully wired, still fully active, and it has absolutely no idea that the saber-toothed cats are gone. It doesn't know about locks. It doesn't know about walls, alarm systems, or the fact that nothing in your bedroom can actually hurt you. It only knows one thing. It's dark. And dark used to mean death. So the next time you find yourself staring at your ceiling at 2 a.m., don't view it as a failure. That familiar dread isn't proof that your body is broken. It's a living, unbroken connection stretching back 300,000 years to a Kasem cave campfire, to a Zhu Huanzi storyteller, to a candlelit hour of quiet midnight reflection our ancestors once knew as simply part of being human. You're experiencing the exact moment of hypervigilance that kept our species alive for thousands of generations, and the ghost of a calm, sacred hour we traded away for a light bulb. Your body isn't malfunctioning, it's remembering.